Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Summers Kristy.
And I'm Amelia Buckley. And we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, TGIF-worthy podcast. Today is, in fact, Friday, the 5th of March, 2021. Good morning, Amelia. Welcome to this side of the Optimist Daily Update.
Good morning. How are you today? How's your Friday going?
Friday's going pretty well so far. Bright early morning, my 10 minutes of yoga by Cassandra with Brennan. I didn't get hit in the face by a tambourine. The cat Zoom bombed my first meeting. So yeah, it's pretty much a perfect Friday so far. It's a beautiful day, and I'm looking forward to the weekend ahead. I have some friends here in California that I am bidding farewell to as we prepare for this final stretch. Hopefully we will be moving in 2 weeks' time, provided no more polar vortex apocalypses. And I'm looking forward to the weekend ahead. Not necessarily the unbelievable amount of packing that suddenly I now realize we have left to do, but overall pretty good. What about you? How are you doing this Friday morning?
Good. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I'm actually kind of made a last minute decision to go ski at Big Bear for the day. So we're like, why not? It's the end of the season. We can drive there and back in one day.
Nice.
Only about 3 hours from here.
Yep.
So I'm excited. It's going to be a good weekend. Although the sunny weather in Santa Barbara has me rethinking heading to the snow a little bit. It's going to be glorious here.
I think you have to do sunrise surfing and skiing, or you have to ski, get up really early, ski, and then come home and do a sunset surfing situation. Because honestly, that is like one of my favorite things to do, is to be both on top of a mountain and in the ocean on any given day. So if you could just do my favorite thing, I would appreciate it.
I'll take on the challenge. I'll try to do it and I'll send you pictures, and then you can live vicariously through it.
Exactly. And then you too can be a mountain and ocean warrior. It's a good lifestyle. You know, we're so lucky here in California that is an option, and that the weather is currently nice. And you know, there's a lot to be grateful for today. There's a lot to be grateful for in this world. And I hope everyone who's listening kind of can step into some gratitude this weekend. It's been a tricky time, but spring is just around the corner. In fact, isn't that what the Optimist View is this weekend, looking ahead to spring?
Yes, we have the long form article on Sunday, which you'll get if you're an Optimist Daily emissary, but you can also find on our website. I actually named it Spring into Solutions. I thought I was being pretty punny. And nobody got mad at me for it, so I left the title. So you'll get to read my punny title. But yeah, it's all of our best spring solutions. So we're talking, gardening, cleaning the house, adopting sustainable habits. We've got a little bit of everything for the new season.
That's fun, and I'm excited. I like your puns, and without Kristy here, perhaps, Kristy likes your puns too. So I think we're down with the puns for the Optimist View. Hey, so let's get to this because, Friday, let's get work done early. What did you like on the Optimist Daily today?
We have a story about condors, which I love because when I was in Patagonia last year, there's a ton of condors that live down there in South America, specifically in Patagonia. And so I got to see like a ton of them, and it was the first time that I had ever seen them in the wild in person, because it's pretty rare to see them in the wild in California or even in the US. There's only about 500 Californian condors that remain in the wild. So if you see one, it's a lucky day. But the story that I wanted to talk about is Wind Farm funds condor breeding program to offset potential species harm. So this is talking about kind of a corporate responsibility issue, and they're talking about Avangrid Renewables, which is a wind farm company, a renewable energy company that operates wind farms in California near the Tehachapi Mountains. And they've actually decided to fund a condor breeding program to offset the potential harm to the species caused by wind farms. So wind farms unfortunately kill about 200,000 birds each year, which is a lot less than are killed by things like glass buildings and even cats. But they wanted to make sure that if they're going to be a renewable energy company, they're adopting sustainability in every aspect of their corporate ideas. So they're dedicating $500,000 to fund the breeding of 6 condors at Oregon Zoo's Johnson Center for Wildlife Conservation. So they noted that none of the condors have actually been harmed by their operations yet. They haven't had any reported injured ones or killed, but that they did do an environmental impact report, and they found that potentially over the next 30 years of operations, 2 adult condors could be killed by their wind turbines. So they want to make sure that they're accounting for those damages to the species by breeding 6, which is equivalent to the 2 adult condors and the potential 2 eggs that they could each have.
Right. What I love about this is on one side of this story, you've got a company like Avangrid who they could have just done nothing, right? They could have just said, hey, we're not going to harm any condors. The odds are pretty low. Let's not call attention to this issue. Let's not worry about it. And instead they said, no, we're going to look the issue in the eye. We're going to look at how we can be a solution. And we're not going to be afraid to acknowledge the potential risk that this energy solution offers. So there is literally no hiding under a blanket of reality on this one. They are flat out saying this is a risk and we want to manage it. And I just think that that is really impressive corporate responsibility. Some people might say, oh, they're just, it's kind of a dog whistle or they're just trying to get PR for it. But the simple fact is the investment alone, a $500,000 investment is not just a PR play, right?
Yeah.
That is an active social responsibility effort. We talk about companies that do good and do well all the time. And I recently had a family member forward me a quote from a political figure that said, do well so you can do good. And I just responded back. I was like, or do good while you're doing well, because they don't have to be in separate tracks, right? They can happen simultaneously. I love what Avangrid is doing, and I think condors are amazing. And I love my little flying creatures. So well done, and thank you for picking this story.
Of course. I think yours has something to do with flying creatures too. Maybe not ones with 2-meter wingspans, though.
Yes, these are much tinier little creatures. These are about bees. This headline reads, a sigh of relief. The UK will not use bee-harming pesticide after all. Now, as somebody who is allergic to bees and also in love with them, I worry often about these creatures because we know that bees are absolutely essential to our entire ecosystem and food system. And recently, the British government actually reversed a ban on a bee-harming pesticide called neonicotinoid in order to kill off virus-transmitting aphids that were actually threatening the UK's sugar beet fields. So they basically said, all right, the risks that are at play here are that we may have a bee death, a mass bee death, but it will save our sugar beets. Well, Mother Nature stepped in and Europe got recent cold weather. Not just polar vortexes across the United States, but also Europe had deeply cold weather, and the aphids were killed off. So the majority of the aphids that were carrying this yellow virus were killed off by the cold weather. So fortunately, although environmentalists were not pleased with the reversal on the ban because the government had broken an explicit pledge, the need to use this neonicotinoid has been alleviated. Now, forecasts still predict that a small percentage of the sugar beets will be damaged due to the virus, but it's not enough to justify the use of the harmful chemical. Bees, as we all know, are so essential to our entire food chain, and we rely heavily on the pollinators, of our birds, bees, and bugs. And there's a quote from an environmentalist whose name I will absolutely massacre, but I'll give it a try. Milan Verk van Rijn, who quoted, agriculture must be regenerative, and we cannot continue destroying the ecosystem on which we depend. So this is a cost-benefit analysis. Certainly, the entire farm of sugar beets and all of those who rely on the sugar beets industry did not want to have their entire crop for a year ruined. But the risk of saving now as opposed to saving later comes from if you kill a massive amount of bees, you are creating a downstream problem. Mm-hmm. Kristy and I talk about this all the time. what you can invest in now to save today can't be at the expense of tomorrow. And as we look at the opportunity for businesses to grow, sustainable agriculture to grow, we have to recognize that we cannot continue to use pollinator destroying methods that are going to create problems for us tomorrow. So I love it. I'm happy that the bees in the UK have been saved and that Mother Nature in her grand wisdom stepped in and froze the heck out of the world. But at the end of the day, this decision and the policymakers who decided to go ahead and roll back their pledge, that was unacceptable, but another solution stepped in, and I am grateful for that. So
yeah, it was really lucky that we had, Mother Nature step in, and it was to our advantage. And I think it's a learning lesson of, okay, so next time this happens, if we don't get the cold weather, what is a sustainable solution that doesn't involve harming the bees? Exactly. And I, remembering my kindergarten project of feeding aphids to ladybugs, think that ladybugs might be a solution.
Yeah. So I think ladybugs are definitely a solution, but every once in a while we have like a massive ladybug death on the beach near my house. I don't know if that happens near yours.
No, I haven't heard of that.
I'm not entirely sure if it has anything to do with the agricultural area that I live in or just where they migrate or what, but a couple times a year I will go walk on the beach and there will just be millions of ladybugs who have gone to expire by the sea. And I've always weird. It's super weird to see tons of dead ladybugs. And I've always kind of wondered what was behind that. Is that a natural process for the ladybugs, or do they come to retire and expire in the seashores of Oxnard? Perhaps. And in my Disney mind, that is exactly what happens, and we'll just go with that.
Make like a Bug's Life version 2, like the retirement of the ladybugs.
Ladybugs, exactly. Where they all happily choose to go die. So that's not exactly an optimistic thought, but perhaps it is. I don't know. We should move on. There is another good story on the Optimist Daily, also from the environment. National parks are leading the transition to all electric federal fleets. We talk all the time about how these large-scale fleets will be the harbingers of opportunity for the electric vehicle industry. There is an article about tasks that bore you. Here are 3 ways to focus and get it done. Okay. What else do we have
for your Friday workday? How to get that stuff done.
Yep.
We've got a lamp that uses ultraviolet light to sanitize public spaces in just minutes, which is pretty cool public health solution. We've got a first for invertebrates. Cuttlefish can delay gratification. So that's a cool thing about the brains of invertebrates and their, reward-based learning. Research, the success of San Francisco's pandemic hotel housing program. Owen's cool little hometown story for me. Mm-hmm. Bird missing for 170 years, rediscovered in Indonesian rainforest.
There seems to have been a lot of these stories about species that previously were thought extinct that we are determining are not. And, I really can't help but wonder if the global pause that really came from the pandemic is part of why these species are able to flourish a bit more. But it's interesting because I think we had, this bird. I think there was a crocodile of some kind. And I know there's been like a mouse in Australia. So all of these animals are being rediscovered even after they thought that they were no longer around. Let's see, we've got a retro milk truck now delivering zero waste products to Londoners. And that's it for our top 10 headlines on today's Optimist Daily. But fear not, tomorrow's Optimist Daily stories are fantastic. If you are a weekend reader, head over to optimistdaily.com or follow us on the socials. And you know what? Pipe in, tell us what makes you optimistic. Share and comment on our stories on Facebook or Instagram and tell us how you are inspired by the world today and this weekend. In the interim, we will promise to continue to share positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And please, if you're not already, consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com. And for just $5 a month, support reader-funded independent journalism and be part of the solution-changing consciousness and addressing our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Let's keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it and supported by those who can.
that would be fabulous. We are grateful for all of you. And hey, last week we had a crazy number of emissaries join over the weekend, so let's do it again. Thanks, everybody. See ya on Monday.